hurry up while, all right, thank you. Let's hurry up while we have everybody. It is exactly 1 o'clock. Let me call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. Lauren Romaine is on the call via Zoom. We've lost Glenn momentarily. Vicki Hempler is here, and Keith Byers is here, so we do have a quorum. Mickey, may I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is to our left.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now go into public comment. At this time, public comment will be taken on those items which are within the jurisdiction and control of the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I'll modify that just in a second. Unless additional time is granted by the board chairperson. The Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board uses timing lights, which we don't, sorry, we'll let you know, and ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. So, Mickey, would you mind timing? We are going to modify this slightly. We have the chair of the county commissioners with us today. She will not be limited to the 3 minutes. The rest of additional opening comments, there will be 3 minutes. We do try to hold people to that because of the volume of comments. Mrs. Hempler will be timing you. She'll give you like a 30-second warning, and we ask you to wrap up. We won't hold you to exactly 3 minutes, but we like to stay in 3 minutes, so we'll give you kind of a warning. She'll give you a 30 seconds left, and you should conclude your comments, and then she'll let you know when it's over. Opening comment, I'd like to turn it over to the chair of the Board of County Commissioners.
Coming down here, so hopefully the remote folks can hear me. I'm here to thank you very much for the service that you've rendered on the advisory board and explain a development that's potentially in the works, which is I proposed an ordinance to cover some pieces of the VHR ordinance, and in that bigger conversation we discussed, is it time to dissolve the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board? And we had some thorough discussions about what was the mission, what is the mission, and has it been accomplished? And of course we did this in light of the fact that every advisory board that the county maintains and supports is an investment of resources on the part of the county. And it behooves us to look and say, is this the most efficient way of taking care of that matter of business? So as part of this discussion, we looked, of course, at how is the program doing. And the fact is that with this ordinance and the operation of our program right now, we have seen great success. That the number of complaints has gone down, the number of rentals has moderated as well. That the restrictions, it seems, have been dialed in pretty close to where they should be to balance the rights of the property owner and the interest of folks who might want to rent and come be here on their vacation. So we feel that the Vacation VHR Advisory Board has been entirely successful, and I believe we are a model for other places. We are the gold standard. We are working well, and hats off to the advisory board and to the members who have created this successful program. So therefore, in the ordinance that will be coming forward in the coming weeks, or maybe a month or two, I don't know, shortly, part of that ordinance will recommend to the county commission that the advisory board be dissolved. Another piece that has, for me, reasoned into this approach is our Board of County Commissioners can't keep from being hands-on the VHR ordinance. And if this board were to tinker with the restrictions or the provisions in that ordinance, I predict that the county commission would just do whatever they wanted to do anyway. And I don't want to ask an advisory board to invest a lot of work and time into figuring out refinements to the ordinance if the county commission is just going to redo on its own anyway. I do feel while the county commission is hands-on the ordinance, I do feel that the county commission is very respectful of the restrictions that you've put in place. And I've seen this with the appeals that have come to us. I've seen it in the discussions that have been had in past agenda items where the board talks about not wanting to impede the enjoyment of property by people who live next to VHR permit holders. And so it is my expectation that your hopes and goals for the program are very well respected by the county commission and will be continued in the future, even if this advisory board is dissolved. So I wanted to come here and thank you and acknowledge that it is because of your work that we have a successful program. And also give you a heads up so that if you feel strongly that this is a wrong move, you've got time to talk it over with me, with Ernie, with AJ, with anyone else on the county commission who you feel you might want to approach. And that's all I want to say, just ending with my thanks.
Thank you very much. Lauren, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
still
cool.
here, yes.
I think Glenn, I don't think you're there. Are you? Thank you very much, Commissioner
Nope,
Hill.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
Glenn's not here.
Glenn, so,
Glenn fell off.
I'm here.
all right, sounds good. We will continue. We still have a quorum, so we'll continue, but just to let the record show that Glenn is not there. Additional opening comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Second, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, approved unanimously. Approval of previous minutes. We got the previous minutes in our packs that are online. Can I have a motion, or is there any discussion?
I will move that we approve the draft minutes of the February 26, 2025 meeting of the VHR Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mickey.
Second.
Second, we have a first motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We'll move on to the administrative agenda. The first agenda item is for possible action. Discussion on an appeal filed by Lamore Revocable Trust. Christina Lamore, if I'm butchering the name, I apologize. Lamore, owner of 429 Barrett Drive, State Line, Nevada, 89449, APN 1319-18-310-013, contesting a fine of $5,000 for operating a VHR without a VHR permit. Code enforcement case number 25-000041. And we'll turn it over to Ernie Strelo. The way we will move through this is, I think it's always important for the county to have to put its case first. So Mr. Strelo will present the county's argument regarding the fine and the appeal. We will then go to the appellant. If the appellant could start with your name and your relationship to the property. Either you're the owner of the property or you're the manager of the property, because one of our first actions will be to determine that you have standing to move on the appeal. So we'll go through Ernie, we'll go through then the appellant. We will then bring it back to the board to ask questions to both the county and the appellant. We will then open it up for public comment. We will come back after all of that, have additional, and by the way, we will allow the appellate to have another comment section if they've had public comment they disagree with or agree with. Then we will bring it back to the board for a conversation and a motion. All right, so with that, Mr. Strelo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ernie Strelo, Program Manager for the Vacation Home Rental Program. And as an aside, Chair, I have Glenn Wolfson on the phone again.
Okay, so we have 4 of the 5 now.
So far.
Thank you.
He says he has 5 larger, so we'll see if that lasts. So this is item number 1. It's, if you have the packet, it's page 36 to 69 in the packet. You've read the possible actions. So the property in question is a single-family home residence located at 429 Barrett Drive. In or around August 2024, the property was purchased by Lamoureux. Is that right?
Lamoureux. Close enough.
I'm sorry.
That's pretty good.
Revocable Trust, 2004, and in September of 2024, the owner was placed on a VHR permit wait list. So not an actual permit, but a wait list. So on January 31st, 2025, a few months later, while reviewing advertisements on host compliance, which is a tool that we use in Douglas County, enforcement officers noted an unidentified, non-permitted VHR advertisement on vrbo.com. And that's in page 50 of the packet. The advertised property had 2 reviews in the packet, and both were for 3-night stays in December 2024. After some investigation, code enforcement officers were able to identify the property as the same property that was advertised. On February 4th, 2025, about a month later, Douglas County sent a notice of violation and fine. The owner renting the property without a VHR permit. And that letter and information begins on page 57 in the packet. On February 13th, 2025, the owner called asking for more details regarding how the county discovered they were renting without a permit. After receiving an explanation, the owner admitted the violation, but filed a timely appeal, which is on page 60. In their written statement, the owner asserts that their short-term rental activity was unintentional, and that's on page 64. The owner claims it was their desire to rent their property for a long-term stays of 28 plus days, or nights. However, due to their inexperience with the VRBO website, the owner claims to have inadvertently allowed 2 individuals to rent the property for 3-night stays. The owner submitted a few screenshots in support of their position. The owner did not explain why they failed to cancel the 2 reservations. In response, the county affirms that it is an owner's obligation to strictly adhere to the VHR code, and a failure to follow the code's requirements constitutes a violation and subjects the owner to a fine. There are no exceptions for inexperienced owners or for owners who elect to manage their VHRs without the assistance of an experienced property manager. Moreover, even if there were such an exception, the owners have offered no explanation for why they failed to cancel the bookings they received, or why they failed to contact the county upon realizing the error. For these reasons, the county recommends that the appeal be denied. And I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Lamoureux, if you'd like to present.
Yes.
And again, if you could start with just stating your name and your relationship with the Lamoureux Revocable Trust
Yes.
and the property.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, Ms. Lamoureux, if you could just make a couple statements, and then we'll check to make sure that Mr. Wolfson can hear you. If you could just
I'm
introduce.
Christina Lamoureux, owner of 429 Barrett Drive. My husband and I purchased the property, like it was mentioned, in August of last year. We do live up here where it was never our intent to, stop there.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Wolfson, were you able to hear Ms. Lamoureux's remarks? Is he still on there?
I'm sorry, were you asking me? Yes.
Hey, Glenn?
Yes, sorry, I had it on mute so you wouldn't hear me. I'm sorry. I heard everything.
Okay, thank you. We still have our 5.
Thanks, Glenn.
Sorry.
When we purchased the house, we live up here. It was never our intent to do these 3-day things or anything like that. It wasn't purchased to be a vacation rental home. It's our home. We put it on there and I did the application because I'm trying to, one, follow the rules.
Secondly, we always intended to, let's say we went to Hawaii for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that, screen someone. So I put it out there, not realizing, and as you can see, I mean, almost 6 months went by, right? Never took a rental, but all of a sudden there was a button that I didn't hit on there that automatically accepted and booked it. So it automatically did it, which I didn't understand or know. So this happened. Luckily, our kids are in the Bay Area, and we were down there for Christmas. I didn't know that I could cancel. I thought maybe after payment was made that you could get in trouble by messing up somebody's plans. New to it, I didn't know that I needed to report it. When I called, and that was it. They happened like that, boom, boom, one after the other, literally within 48 hours. It was that, it could have been 24 hours. I can get that information and even provide it to you, possibly from the VHR website. But moving forward, we knew right away we didn't want to do that. It happened, it was a mistake, it hasn't happened again. When I called after we received the notice in January, I was thinking our children were up there, they're 35 and 34. So they were up there while we were babysitting the grandkids in January. And so I was thinking, oh, maybe our neighbors thought that we were like renting it out, seeing that, the kids were up there. But that wasn't the case. And so that's, I think when the county said that I called questioning how, or why, that's what I was thinking. It didn't even dawn on me about VRBO. I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking, oh gosh, somebody thought that we rented the house out, and it's our children that were up there. So I hope that kind of explains it a little bit. What was the other? So, and again, I apologize. I didn't know that I needed to report it. We understand that it was wrong. We're not intending to rent our house out like that. I would have never filed for an application in the very beginning to do things correctly if that was our intent, to try to hide behind or, sneak around. We are rule followers, my husband and I. So I hope that you just can try to consider that it was not malicious. It was a mistake. I think all people make mistakes. And so I'm just asking for some leniency. If you do feel that a fine is necessary, I'm just asking for some leniency. My husband and I are retired, so having a $5,000 fine could be quite difficult on incomes. So I'm just here trying to present my case, so you know that we're honest people, not trying to do the right thing. And apologies for what happened.
Thank you. Let's move to the action of standing. Can I get a motion regarding standing?
Yes. What?
Should I sit down, or is it a question?
It's up to you. We're about to start asking questions, so, yeah.
Because I will make a motion but I want to make it right, so let me,
There you go.
thought I had all the pages.
Page 36.
Oh, page 36, okay. Okay, I move that we find the appellant Christina Lamora, I'm going to say it wrong, has standing to bring an appeal and is aggrieved by the $5,000 fine.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, 4-0. Let's go now to questions to either Mr. Strelo or to Ms. Lamoureux. Mickey, would you mind going first?
Nope, I don't mind going first at all. Question for you, you live here full-time then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It was a little confusing because the information shows a house in.
We have a house in California
Oh,
still,
okay.
yes, a
But-
second residence, we have 4 children and 5 grandchildren.
So you live in this house
We do.
full-time and you were just
We
gonna
do.
rent it when you.
We go
leave
home,
town?
we go back every Monday and Tuesday to watch the grandkids. But,
Which is
yeah.
why you don't have a property manager, because you're,
Well, we
Yeah.
never intended to be vacationing it out. We just thought, okay, wouldn't it be great if we did go on a vacation and, you know, for a couple weeks and do something like that.
Right,
It was just kind of up in the air, and so we filed for the application
got it.
without, there hasn't been an intent
No, I
out
just,
there.
I was asking about a property manager because the property managers that put in the ads for VRBO and Airbnb, you know, they know how to, they're more adept at using those websites.
And I would have
versus
if
me.
that was a case that, you
Um,
know, we were going in that direction, but that was never the
And-
case.
You know, the reason operating without a permit, to me, is so egregious is because you haven't had a fire safety inspection yet. You know, I don't know that your insurance has been looked at as to whether it's, the correct insurance for having a vacation rental. I know there's a difference between just homeowner insurance, you know, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, you know, those are the triggers for me that make a mistake like this uncomfortable to forgive. But those two questions were mainly what I had in mind was, do you have a property manager? Is this your residence? And now I understand that. So I don't have any more questions until we come back for deliberation.
Glenn, do you have questions for either Mr. Strelo or Ms. Lamoureux?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Okay. Mickey, questions for either party?
Lauren.
Sorry, Lauren, sorry.
I do not have questions at this time.
Thank you. My question's, you know, the county can see what the county can see, they can't see what they can't see. What was the date of the first rental?
It was December,
Okay,
and they were literally back to back, and they were books back to back. Because it was just like, oh my God, oh my God.
yeah.
Do you want me to give you exact dates?
No, just relative, so,
In December, I'm right at Christmas,
okay, and the second one was right after Christmas?
right at Christmas, yeah.
Okay, both are right at Christmas, okay. Now, you're required to pay TOT tax? Because you don't have a permit, I'm assuming you didn't pay TOT either?
TOT tax, I think that's
Room tax.
established on, what, the website, on the VRB
It's
website?
room tax, I don't think she understands.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's a, please, thank you.
So, kind of a little bit of what Mickey said also. So it's an application, so they haven't set up anything yet. So when they're on a wait list, they wait their turn to be invited by the coordinator, VHR coordinator, to apply for a permit. At that point, they would fill out, they would go through the application process that includes the creation of a TOT account with
Okay.
HDL. So that's why she doesn't know.
Oh, okay, so, okay, sounds good, okay, thank you. And the rental income per night was around $600, is that right?
No, it's listed, I raised it up because I didn't want to have, after this all happened, I was like, oh my God, anything to avoid misconception, right? I'd rather have somebody just inquire and send me you know, is it available, and then talk to them, right, if they were gonna be a 28-day stay type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done everything to try to change that entire thing around. My husband's having a complete and utter fit because he's just like, what happened here? But no, so I think each of the rentals that came in for the two that came were around 1,600
Each or both?
each.
Each, okay.
Roughly, and I could get documentation on that if you like.
And there were 3-night rentals, so you're about $530, $500 a night?
Well, yeah, but that,
You said about 1,600 each,
Yeah.
and they were 3-night rentals, so a little over $500 a night? Not 600?
yes,
Okay,
I guess so, yes.
yeah, okay. And so your intent was to rent it for 28 days, or not rent it at all?
Well, no, when we did the application to be on the wait list, when I paid and submitted the application for on the wait list, they said, you can do 28 days. That's all you can do. And I was, oh, that's great. You know, I'll just stay on the wait list.
Mhm.
If we get someone and we decide we want to go on vacation, we'll do that. We just didn't know. With buying the house and moving up here, I did get insurance to have. So when we bought the house, I got insurance because I knew that I was going to possibly do this or try it out. So I did have that. So there, that was all that was kind of explained. You know what I mean? It has to be 28 days. So I knew. I mean, and there was never our intent to have short-term renters in there. It's our home. This is our home.
So your intent was to rent it out for $14,000 a month?
Yes, and maybe go on a vacation if
Okay.
we wanted to go.
Yeah. Okay,
You know, and it's not necessarily that, the why I went on the short term is because I was thinking more or less 2 weeks. I don't know if I could go somewhere for an entire month or have somebody live in my home for a month. So that's why we did put our application in for being on the wait list. Does that make sense for the shorter term? Because you can rent it out for 2 weeks
if you had a permit.
if you had a permit, yes.
Mhm.
So I've never had anybody there for a month. I've only had these 2 people that were accidental.
I guess I
That's
was
it.
trying to go to your intent, and so your intent was, I'm gonna put it on the site, to rent it from the site, but minimum 28 days, so that's $14,000 a month. Did
Yeah.
you rent it out, did you advertise anywhere else as this as a long-term rental property?
No,
Okay.
only on VRBO, no, did not.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Why don't we go to public, you can have a seat now.
Okay.
And so public comment, sometimes people are here, sometimes people aren't. We will give you a chance to respond to the public comment afterwards. Public comment regarding property, the property at 429 Barrett Drive. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a discussion.
I'll go first. Couple things. Operating without a permit, according to the ordinance, has a fine up to $20,000. So it looks to me like the county staff were very generous in the fine that they did levy against you. It gets back to, ignorance is no excuse, we always hear that. It sets a bad precedent, in my opinion, when we overlook, even if it's a mistake by the owner, overlook complaints or violations like this, because it does set a precedent, and I don't want to see that to happen in the future. I am sure that your intentions were pure when you put it on the website, but when looking at some of your reviews and your responses, that, we're glad you had a wonderful time and come and enjoy our home and that kind of thing, kind of leads me to think that, well, maybe I can get away with it, these 2 mistakes. One mistake is a mistake. A second one, I don't know, it's not really a mistake anymore. And those are just my thoughts on this whole appellant appeal request.
Glenn, comments, question?
I just want to verify the fine that was given was $20,000.
No, Glenn, it was $5,000. Mickey was saying that the maximum fine for renting without a permit is $20,000. The county fined $5,000, and we can ask Mr. Strelo why $5,000 and not 20, because we do actually have the ability to raise the fine if we so choose, but we can talk about that. But is that a question for Mr. Strelo of how the 5,000?
No, I agree
Okay.
with how Mr. Strelo is handling it myself, from what I know, and when it comes to a motion, I'll let you know how I vote.
Okay, sounds good. Lauren?
I'm sorry, it was hard to hear Glenn. What was the last part, Glenn?
Glenn didn't have any further comments.
Okay. Can you,
No further comments.
I would like you to ask Bernie about the fine itself.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Strelo, the maximum fine is $20,000. You've fined $5,000 in this instance. Can you just give us some thought process as to why you didn't find the maximum.
Yeah, Ernie Strelo for the record. Yeah, so typically, on most fines, if it's not an egregious issue where they're just like rapidly renting properties out, you know, if there wasn't 15 incidences and we finally caught them, and it looks like it was a couple that were sequential and it happened just a couple times, and then it stopped when we talked to them, we start off with 5,000. So if there's a second incidence, it would be a higher fine. So it's kind of a subjective number, but you do have the ability to increase it if you choose, or eliminate it. But my rationale was, and talking to team members was that it did happen a couple times. We caught them, it stopped. We sent them a letter, we fined them 5,000. If it happens again, then we'll come down harder.
And what is the TOT rate?
Of collection?
No, per percentage. I mean, if they had $3,200 of,
It's 14%.
14%.
I think is the collection rate.
okay, so, yeah, so
And
the,
plus the $5 a night.
14%.
I think it's the $5 a night that goes to,
Yeah, there's $5 a night and then there's 14%.
and just for the record, for Ms. Lamoureux, I don't know if you're understanding when we're saying TOT, because everyone in the county talks in acronyms, but it's a room tax. And it's the, transient occupancy tax that everybody, every hotel has to pay and every VHR has to pay.
I don't know what the rate is, I haven't heard any.
yeah. And like I said, when the permit becomes due, I mean, when you get a permit, you'll get instructions on how to file for that and how to do it. I guess just last mine, I guess I think I may agree with Glenn where he was going. I agree $20,000 because I do believe there were some mistakes here, but I also agree with Mickey that, the mistakes, we just can't have them in having a working program. When one property has some issues, all the properties have issues. I would point out, as far as the 5,000, you received approximately $3,200 in rent to pay towards the 5,000. The county is out close to $500 in transit occupancy tax because it's impossible to pay without a permit. So I believe the $5,000 is a reasonable fine and would not suggest increasing it. So we have discussion. If there's any further discussion, let's have it.
Can I?
Yes, please, Lauren, go ahead.
I have one comment. Yep, so I just wanted to clarify, because I believe I understand what the appellant was saying as far as the fact that they got insurance, but I just want to clarify, there are requirements within the VHR advisory group, or in the code, in order to have a specific amount of insurance and type of insurance, because of the fact that the county is the one who licenses these, and so if there's something that happens at your property, and you don't have the proper insurance to indemnify us and to protect us as a county, then, I understand that you're saying you had insurance, but the important thing to remember is the reason you go through the process is to ensure that you have the proper type of insurance that is required. So I'm good after that, thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
go to page 79.
39, I think, is back to the.
Oh, I'm on number 2, in my
sorry.
head, on my, yeah, number 1. Okay,
You want the front page?
I got it. Okay. Okay, I move that we affirm the decision of the county upholding the $5,000 fine for the property located at 429 Barrett Drive, State Line, Nevada. Owner Christina Lamoureux.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second?
A second from Glenn. Sorry, Lauren, Glenn beat you to it. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, unanimous 4-0. Thank you. Well, let's move on to agenda item 2. For possible action, discussion on an appeal filed by Sweetland Revocable Trust, Jenny Sweetland, owner of 996 Skyland Avenue, Zephyr Cove, Nevada, 89448. APN 1318-03-212-002, contesting a fine of $1,000 for VHR parking violations, VHR permit DSTR 1272P, Code Enforcement Case 25-000065, and we will follow the same order as last one. Mr. Strelo, if you will present your report.
Okay. Ernie Strelo for the record. This is related to 996 Skyland Drive in Zephyr Cove. The property in question is a single-family residence located at 996 Skyland Drive within the Skyland subdivision in GID. The property was purchased in 2008 by Sweetland Revocable Trust. The owner was issued a VHR permit in 2009. The property also operated as a VHR under prior ownership, if you were curious. The VHR has approval for 6 bedrooms and a maximum overnight occupancy of 10. So that's on page 79 to 81. The VHR was originally permitted for 4 parking spaces during nighttime hours. On June 23rd, 2023, Douglas County received a complaint via the VHR hotline from a neighbor. So this is a couple years ago, Don Shipman, regarding 6 vehicles parked at the property, 5 on the driveway, 1 in the garage. Douglas County contacted the property manager at the time, who responded and submitted a photo of 4 cars on the driveway at the time of the arrival. The property manager and owner were informed of the county's new regulations regarding parking based on the new ordinance passed in 2023, which had just taken effect, requiring compliance during both daytime and nighttime hours. So at that time, no further action was taken. On September 1st, 2023, the county renewed the VHR permit and again approved 4 parking spaces only, and that's on the front of the permit. A request for 5 parking spaces was denied. On March 2nd, 2025, Mr. Shipman sent an email to Douglas County with pictures showing alleged parking violations on 2 dates, January 19th, 2025 and February 22nd, 2025. And you'll see those pictures on page 85 to 87. I believe I denoted also the date and time the pictures were taken to kind of help. That was encoded in the photo. The email was sent to Commissioner Tarkanian, who forwarded the complaint to Code Enforcement, and that's on page 83. You'll see an email in there. A few days later, Mr. Shipman again emailed Commissioner Tarkanian in reference to the parking complaint from 2023, which is why I read it. So that's on page 90. On March 3rd, 2025, Douglas County issued the owner a notice of violation and assessment of civil penalty, and that's located on page 97 in the packet. The notice imposed 2 $500 fines for parking violations on January 19th and then the second one on February 22nd, 2025. The owner timely filed an appeal and made a number of arguments, including complainants and the county are procedurally required to report all violations in real time to local contacts. And only those violations that are not timely resolved by the local contacts are considered quote-unquote violations under the code. Parking violations should be attributable to renters, not owners, and the consequences of having 2 parking violations are disproportionate to the violations themselves. The VHR permit should allow for 6 parking spaces, not 4. In response, the county asserts that, 1, there was no failure by the county or anyone else to follow any required procedures. There is nothing in county code that requires a complainant or the county to direct complaints to a local contact. When local contacts are notified, their duty is to resolve violations. But that duty to resolve violations is not the same thing as the power to reverse or nullify violations, as the owner implies. A local contact's failure to respond to or resolve a violation can itself constitute its own violation of the VHR code, and that's in section 20.622040A subsection 2, requiring local contact after being notified of the existence of a violation of the chapter to respond to the location within 30 minutes, or to resolve the situation within 1 hour and to report the violation within 72 hours to resolve the situation, and directing that the failure to do so act shall be considered a violation of this chapter. While parking violations may be attributable to renters with a maximum fine of $500, county code specifically reserves for the county the right to also fine owners. And that's also in the same code, 050, subsection C and 3. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent the county from also bringing enforcement action against the owner of the vacation home rental for any parking violations committed by the renters. The argument that the consequences for parking violations may be disproportionate to the violations themselves ignores the fact that, in this case, the county has only assessed the minimal fines of $500 for each violation. The two $500 fines are not disproportionate to the parking violations. The owner had a right to appeal the VHR permits for parking restriction within 10 working days after the parking restriction was imposed, and that's also in the code. Any VHR owner issued an adverse decision with respect to the owner's VHR permit or permit application pursuant to this chapter shall have the right to file an appeal with the VHR advisory board, which they did. Requires that the appeals be filed within 10 working days of the adverse decision. The owner did not exercise that right. It is procedurally improper to consider the appeal now. For these reasons, the county recommends that the appeal be denied. And lastly, as a comment, there were two violations sent to us, but it was on the same day. And so we counted it as one violation, not two. And so we fined 500 and 500 for the two incidences, but because we got it at the same time, we just called it one violation. Moving on, and that was it. So we could have counted it as two violations and piled on and revoked the permit, but we didn't. And the fine could have been a lot higher. So 500 was the lowest.
Thank you. Is there someone here from Sweetland Revocable Trust? And if you wouldn't mind starting with your name and your relationship with the property, so regarding standing.
Again, my name is Rick Campbell. I'm an attorney in Reno. I represent the Sweetland Trust, and Jenny Sweetland is here. Is it not out of, AJ, is it okay to have the client actually do some question and answer for the record?
That would be up to our chair.
Sure.
Okay, so I just have some questions for Mrs. Sweetland to start, and then the property notice person, and then I'll go into my argument. Okay. Ms. Sweetland, are you the owner of the property in question that's subject to this matter?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And how long have you been the owner?
Since 2007, actually, I think it is.
Okay. Have you ever had any other violations levied against this property?
None.
Okay. Your past permit had 6 parking places, correct? 6 permitted parking places, right?
That is correct.
And when you reapplied for that permit, did you reapply for 6?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what were you given, what was the renewed permit given you?
Well, when I submitted my renewal application, this is last year, I included an aerial photograph. That aerial photograph, I had taken big, wide blue painter tape and taped off my driveway, showing that there were 4 9x20 spaces on the driveway, labeled the 2-car garage, and submitted that, uploaded that with my application. I also sent an email to Mr. Strelo asking him to review the aerial photograph and look at my parking. And so that was the application process that I followed.
And what did the new permit give you? How many parking spots?
They reduced my parking from 6 to 4. I did not ever get a response from Mr. Strelo or an explanation of why they reduced it. So what I did is I contacted code enforcement. I tried several times to get through to Mr. Strelo without success. I finally spoke to Katie Echegoyen, and she told me at that point the amount of parking is strictly up to Ernie's discretion. It doesn't matter that we've operated since 2009 with no violations. It doesn't matter how big our driveway is. None of that matters. He just has absolute discretion. And
Did anything physically change on your lot to diminish parking spaces, diminish fire access?
no,
And when you had 6 parking places, how did that work as far as where cars were parked?
I parked, there's a 2-car garage, and then there's a long driveway about 53 feet long, and there are 4 parking spaces on the driveway, and then 2 inside the garage. That's how the 6 were allocated.
Okay, so once it's changed was changed to 4 parking spaces, how do you advertise the property?
Well, we have a property manager up here, and we work very close with them. First of all, right in our ad, the description of our property sets forth immediately that there's only 4 parking places. It tells them that we have 3 cameras that are pointed at the street and the driveway. And one of those cameras actually has a date stamp, a date and time stamp on it, and it's recorded and saved for about 6 months. So we tell them about that. We also have them sign a contract. The parking restrictions are there. We also have a permanent sign posted at the curb that has parking restrictions, the $500 fine, and it has mine and my husband's personal cell phone numbers, the cell phone number for our property manager, and the cell phone number for our local contact, so that if a neighbor ever saw something that was unusual, they had access to it.
Both the advertisement and the sign, those are part of the board package, right, that was provided to the board?
I'm sorry?
Both your advertisement listing on the
Yeah, the
platform.
description was submitted as in the package,
And I believe-
along with a copy of the posted sign
Yeah, I think
that's
that's,
on the.
I think that's board package.
It is.
77.
Yes.
And then I think the sign is later on here at, about
I saw it and it's
87,
red.
okay.
And I
Oh,
should
okay.
probably add that there is multiple documents that the property manager has them sign. Each one of them focus on parking, garbage, and noise, because we know those are the biggest problems to manage, right? In addition to that, we have a guest iPad in the house that's mounted on the wall where they can see all the restrictions. We also have a framed copy of our permit, which notes the number of maximum cars on the property. We pretty much cover it inside out, contract and listing.
You mentioned cameras. Can those cameras see the garage?
No, they cannot. They're pointed at the driveway and at the street to make sure nobody parks on the street. But we were told by an attorney that we could not put a camera inside the house or the garage because it was a violation of privacy.
The notices of violation that are in the board package on those certain dates, did you ever receive any notice whatsoever that someone was complaining about the parking in your, at your property?
Absolutely not. Mr. Shipman has both our emails, both our cell phone numbers. We've had lots of communication with him. The sign in front of our house has Julio's cell phone number, the manager's cell phone number. He never contacted us to tell us that he had been videoing our house when he was up there, saw the garage door open and saw that there was a car parked in the garage. Had he just simply texted me, we would have been able to address that, but we couldn't see it from the camera, and there was no reason for me to go back and check the camera because there was 4 or less cars on the driveway. It all looked like it was compliant.
You said that Julio was your property manager. Was he ever contacted on any of your either on these two incidences or before that, to your knowledge?
No, Julio has been our local contact for over 2 years. He has never, he told me he has never received a complaint from Don Shipman in the entire 2 years that he has been the local contact.
Okay. And then, since you got this notice of violation, have you taken any remedial properties to maybe even ensure further that the parking spaces are limited to 4?
Yeah, we realize that, you know, it takes 2 minutes to open the garage door and move a car in. We're really not able to monitor inside the garage like we can on the driveway and the street. So what we've done is we have locked off our garage. It's a shame because they can't keep bikes and sand toys and things like that, but if you can't monitor it, we just feel like we need to lock it off so they can't get access to it. In addition to that, our property manager has hired additional staff, and that staff is doing what we're calling a live check-in. So after they arrive, they will go over, make sure that there are only 4 cars, including an inspection of the garage, which has an exterior door they can access to check. And, you know, short of warning guests of the restrictions, monitoring them with cameras, having a live check-in and locking down the garage doors so they can't get in there, I'm kind of at a loss on what else we could do.
That's all I have. Does the board want to ask questions from Ms. Wheatland now or later on?
Yes, we will ask questions now, and then we'll go to public comment. Let me start. Glenn, are you still online? Would you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Mickey?
I was noticing on your supplemental that you send in, page 3, where you highlight, that there's, 4 cars only, it's right here, where you highlight parking is limited to 4 vehicles on the driveway, which is monitored by security cameras, blah, blah, blah. So do you not advertise that someone can use the garage?
No, we don't advertise they can use it.
So this car that was in the garage was violating your own rules?
Right. The garage has a snowmobile in it, which is usually like right in the middle of the garage. It's our family snowmobile, so it would be really difficult to get a car in there, first of all. Second of all, it has a lot of our supplies. We've had people that have said, can we put our bikes in there? You know, we have bikes delivered to right around Tahoe, or we've got people that come with wagon and sand toys back and forth to the beach. So it's an amenity for them that they like to use. Our problem is if you allow them to park their bikes and open the garage door, put their sand toys, obviously you get a couple sturdy guys to scoot the snowmobile over and push stuff out of the way. Obviously you can fit a car in there. That was never our intention. But
It's not unusual for a permit holder to not allow guests to park in the garage,
correct.
because they do keep their personal things in there. So that was one of my biggest questions, because I noticed that you're only saying that they should be in the driveway.
Mhm.
So there's that, and then I just wanted to comment on the VHR owner affiant that you sign. That's on page 118, and it's just number 5, which has been discussed over and over again about how the owner is ultimately responsible for anything that construes a complaint. So I look at that because when people sign that, they're really signing their rights away, that whatever somebody else does in their home, they're taking responsibility for it. So I think that's the way, we're looking at this. The other, part of it is the, again, it's a violation, and I hate setting precedents where someone down the road can point at something. But before I go any further, I'll let someone else talk, and I'll say anything else I have after we have public comment.
Okay. Mickey? Oh,
Lauren?
sorry, Lauren, sorry.
Are you going?
Yeah, sorry, Lauren, do you have comment, questions?
I have, questions for Ernie. And I probably can tell what it is, that the garage has personal items in it, and therefore it was not an appropriate place for spots, but is that the reason why they were reduced to 4? Or is there
Ernie Strelo for the record, the property has been for since January 2022, so we just,
Carrie, continue on.
yeah. We're not,
Lauren, did you hear that answer?
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's been 4 for a while, okay. I am not seeing, the appellant was suggesting that there was some picture that was sent of a sign that was posted, and I'm not seeing that in the packet. Is there a
I think it was a
supplement?
supplemental. It's a red sign. I remember what it looks like. I just don't
Okay.
remember where it
It's
is.
the 10th page of
The
the
supplemental.
supplement.
Got it, okay, thank you. And then are there, Mr. Strelo, are there other complaints at this property other than from this one owner? Have there been other complaints?
Ernie Strelo for the record. I don't have any other complaints. I think this is the only one I have. I don't recall, I mean, I haven't received substantiated complaints on the property. I think I got one call, and I mentioned that in the packet from a year ago or two.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
I have a comment at the end, I guess, is once the questions get done, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, we'll come back after public comment.
Okay.
A couple of things. First of all, you mentioned the process about parking. And what some owners have found very helpful is to screen the renters and ask how they're coming there and how they're gonna come in 4 cars or less. Because a lot of people don't, they don't meet and come to Tahoe, they meet in Tahoe. And so you can see, I can't remember how many, is this a 10?
10.
10, 5 couples meet, there's 5 cars. Have you considered screening and specifically asking people how they're gonna meet the 4-car requirement?
Our property manager does screen each of them,
Mhm.
and they tell me that they speak to each one of them.
Okay,
And so we usually know, and obviously we know, we have their address and everything in the contract, so we know if they're coming from, like, if they come from Los Angeles, frequently they fly into Reno. If they come from the Bay Area, that's what really raises the question, how many cars are you bringing? There's only a maximum of 4 cars. And so we do go through that kind of inquiry as to, first of all, where are you coming from and how are you getting there? If they're coming from New York, New York, it's obvious you don't have to ask them if they're driving because they're not driving. But I do want to say that the 2024-25 permit was returned to me with 4 parking spaces, but the permit just prior to that had 6 parking spaces, and I believe it's in our packet. And if you look, there's 2 permits, and one of them says 4, the most recent permit, the other says 6. the permit just prior.
Okay. And you mentioned you had locked off your garage, and I just want to make sure that there's not a safety hazard there. You also have a garage door, like a man door, whatever they call it.
Personnel door.
We
You
have-
haven't cut off a fire exit.
No, we have three, we have a full double car garage door, and then we have two man door exits.
Okay.
One goes into the house, the other goes out onto the front porch. So we always have access, there's always a minimum of 2 fire exits.
And again, if they were storing bikes or beach wagons, they can also take it to a man door. They don't need to open a garage door.
Exactly.
Perfect, thank you. And now you mentioned Mr. Shipman, that he had, you had communication with him a while back, correct?
We've had, yeah, for as long as he has owned the house.
Do you know how long that is? How long he's owned the house? Was he there when you got there, or you're there?
Oh, no.
Okay, he just moved in?
Our friend sold the house, and I would say Mr. Shipman's been there about 4 years.
Okay.
Really? Okay. I'm
Okay.
gonna say 4 to 6 to be.
And so his conversations with you have been ongoing.
Absolutely.
Now, have any of them been complaints about your property?
Yes, I mean, he'll complain that, I mean, he's very astute, and that's great. But, you know, he was very active in the defeat of us having a tier 3 permit. He kind of spearheaded a neighborhood, effort to get that, denied. He has been known to set up video cameras and video our house the whole time he's there to see if someone does something wrong. They don't lock a bear can. They hide a car in the garage. I mean, he's very active. And although he has our emails, our phone numbers, he could communicate and we could solve the problem for him easily. His goal is not to solve a car in my garage. His goal is to rack up citations by routing them through the commissioner's office and revoking our permit. That's the goal here, not the car in the garage.
So, yeah, thank you. You mentioned he had been in contact with you personally.
Oh, yeah.
And are those about violations, or what did he?
Just complaints about everything, you know, the lights were on, the bear can wasn't, you know, the handle, it's a locking, wasn't locked. At one point, he sent me a photo where he had measured the bumper, which he thought was too close to the end of the driveway. It happens.
So how do you make the decision under the code when a owner, you know, when a neighbor does complain, it kicks off a process to a contact. They're supposed to notify the county they've received the complaint and how they remedied it. How do you go through the determination of when to notify the county of when you've had a complaint and when you don't? Do you understand my question?
You mean-
Under the code, if you receive a complaint, you're supposed to notify the county that you received the complaint and how you've addressed it. How do you determine when to make that communication to the county that you've received a complaint from Mr. Shipman?
I would do it immediately, but this was complaints that he has made was, I mean, he's been there several years. It's not under the 2024 code. So I know now there's language that says when you get a complaint, you need to report it in a very short period of time. I haven't received one of his complaints.
Okay.
Now he goes through the commissioner.
Since the new, so just to be
Yeah.
clear, so he isn't talking to you constantly anymore.
Not any longer.
That was previous, okay.
Now he uses
All right.
political muscle.
All right?
Can I ask one more?
Yes, please.
Ernie, Mrs. Sweetland mentioned that her previous permit was for 6 cars. And the permit I'm looking at that's in the supplemental that we received from Ms. Sweetland has a permit that I don't see in our original packet, and it's for a strange amount of time. It's for 7/23 till 11/23 for 6 cars. So can I just assume maybe that you reduced it down and she got a new permit?
Bernie Strelo for the record. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out myself. So, so we had actually 2 permits for that time frame, and it looks like there was a first one issued from Tom for the same time period. That was for 4, and then there was one issued for that same later within that year, the next year. I'm sorry, I believe it, 2011. So we have a permit, VHR P 09-531 on page 79 with the same time frame, but it was issued originally on November 6, 2022, and expires on November 5th, 2023. And then we have like an interim permit that was printed, that was issued on July 6, 2023, and expired on 11/5/2023, for six spots.
Yeah.
What we did, I can only guess at this point. I think there was a tier 3 application that was going through during
That's correct.
those periods, and so that might have been why we did that. I can't definitively answer what exactly why that happened. But since then, they've been 4.
Right,
Okay.
right. No, I mean, it helps me with understanding why there would have been a request for 6 in '24, when you had 4 before that.
There was an SUP.
Because I'm looking at 21 to 22, 22 to 23 was 4 spaces, and there's this one I can't find, which I found in your supplemental for those few months, and then the other one was 4. So, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, well, so you can see why I would take the blue painter tape and take a photo and
Sure.
submit that to try to resolve all this back and forth. We had 6, our new permit got reduced, and I never got an explanation, except it's up to Ernie's
Yes.
discretion.
But you were at 4 spaces in '22 and in '23, or part of '23, you were at 4 spaces.
Actually, I mean, I didn't give you, we've been doing this, and I managed it for almost 10 years myself. I have all of the permits. At one point, we had parking for 9, because they counted 2, it's a 53-foot driveway, and it's too wide, so they gave us, and there's got an apron, so when they counted the garage and all the spaces.
I remember the house
Yeah.
when we were doing a tier 3
Okay.
observation,
So,
so yes, I
I
remember
mean,
the
I've
house.
had them as many as
Yeah.
9 spaces.
Mhm.
The normal was kind of 6 spaces,
Right,
and then we got reduced to 4 spaces. So basically, we can put 2 cars in our garage if we opened it up, and 2 20-foot spaces on a 53-foot long driveway. And,
thank you, thank you, that's all I have.
okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Would you like?
I had some arguments.
Uh-huh.
You want me to do it at the end of any public comments, since I
It
get to
is,
rebut anyway?
you will have a chance to comment after public comment, but if you would like, if they are not regarding what someone else has said, so why don't you go ahead and do it now? I think that'd make more sense.
Okay. So again, this is kind of a strange situation, because clearly the neighbors know that there's a number to call. The neighbor must be familiar with the permit as to the parking spots. There's a sign out in front of the house, who to call the local contact. Instead, in this case, we get a email string between the neighbor and Commissioner Tarkanian. And interestingly enough, just to mirror the comments from my client, in that email string, I think it was like on 22 of our supplemental package, that email string pretty says, this is from Mr. Shipman, I write in support of your endeavors to ban VHRs outside of the casino corridor. So I think there's a separate agenda going on here. More importantly here, I just want to emphasize that the code on parking violations, 26, 20.6220503 parking violations for guests and renters. And it clearly says a civil penalty for up to 500 may be issued to any renter or VHR guest who fails to park in the designated parking spot or display the parking placard as required. So the code enforcement has the ability to find that. In fact, that's the first part of the paragraph. The renters were notified that they could be fined also. In this case, I don't think it was proper to go ahead and notice Sweetlands on a fine because of the circumstances of the efforts they tried to take. And I think also, looking at section 2622040 management, section 2, that notice provision to have someone there in 30 minutes is there for a reason. It's so that any problems can be taken care of in a very short time frame. If you don't give any latitude to that kind of a lack of notice, you're really vitiating that portion of the code. How can if an owner never finds out about something until they actually get the notice of violation after everything's taken place with some photos that are, dated, I don't know how they were dated when it happened, but I think you've got to comply with that code at least in the consideration as to whether Sweetlands should have been fined in this case. I'm glad to hear on the record that this was one fine because it's a little confusing because, one violation because each violation was only supposed to be $500. So I'm glad that that's on the record now because of the multiple violation thing. But I think the real issue here is should the Sweetlands have been noticed of a violation instead of the owners in this case? And I think there's, if you look at that code provision, there's discretion in there to notify, to cite the property guests, not the property owners. And I think under the circumstances here, everything they've done in the past, everything they've tried to do, setting up cameras when they didn't have to, now taking remedial measures, I think it's having it first strike against them on this when the county probably should have just noticed the renters would have been more proper access to do this. So again, that's what I think that should happen. Again, because of the circumstances here, because of what the Sweetlands would do, because of the kind of unique situation here where we don't have a neighbor making a formal complaint through the process that's set forth in the ordinance. We have a kind of a backdoor channel, communications with commissioners, and then the direction to Mr. Strelo to take care of it.
Thank you. We'll now open up to public comment.
Well, guess who? My name is Don Shipman, and my wife and I have actually owned 1001 Skyland since 2013, not 4 years. We've been there for 12 years. First, I want to thank the VHR board for the notification because my wife and I have been severely impacted by the negligent manner and lack of standard care the Sweetlands show their neighbors. I bear no hostility to the Sweetlands, but we have always been civil to each other, but the Sweetlands continue to show ambivalence about compliance with the Tier 2 rules that were established for the community's greater good. My wife and I spend a long weekend at our place about once a month. The majority of our visits are ruined by the Sweetlands not following the Tier 2 rules. We all agreed in 2022 that 4 cars was acceptable. 2 in the driveway and two in the garage. Whether they're all in the driveway or all in the garage, doesn't matter. 4 cars, we all agreed to that in 2022. In fact, it sounded wonderful and was a way for them to continue to generate revenue for their property while allowing others to enjoy theirs. There have been many incidents where there's been a car in the garage, 4 or 5 in the driveway, often with cars in the street. Jenny and I have communicated extensively until about 2022, the last hearing. I stopped communicating with her because I just got nowhere. If the permit, at the time I was complaining about 8, 10, and 12 vehicles at their property. 8, 10, and 12. And I still have the pictures. And Jenny, there's an extensive email exchange between me and you on all of this. I still have all of that, and I'm happy to submit it to the VHR board. But the fact of the matter is, when I would complain about the violations, nothing changed. Jenny is very kind, and we're always civil to each other, but the fact of the matter is, I would complain, and she'd say, I will counsel my guest. And nothing ever changed for the tenure of that guest stay. And the amazing thing is if I complained about 10 vehicles, the very next time there's 8 and 10 again. And I have this in the email exchange that's dated, and I'll be happy to forward it to the VHR board, Mrs. Sweetland. But even when I supply pictures, the Sweetlands will deny our reality. That's the constant. Okay, please allow me. I will supply this. April 28th, 2023, 7 cars. Here's the pictures. June 23rd, 2023, 6 cars. January 12th, 2024, 7 cars. July 12th, 2024, 8 cars. September 20th, 2024, 6 cars. January 19th, 5 cars. February 21, 5 cars. And these are the only times that we're up. This is just when we're there, and I'm only documenting them about a third of the incidents that we experienced. Suffice to say, the negligent manner in which the Sweetlands continue to manage their property makes it impossible for us to enjoy ours. All we are asking for is compliance with the Tier 2 rules. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Okay, I don't believe I had a motion about standing yet, and sorry, poor leadership on my part. May I have a motion on standing?
Let me go to the page. Okay, I will move that the appellant, Jenny Sweetland, has standing to bring an appeal and is aggrieved by the $1,000 fine.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Lauren. A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, unanimous. I believe people had comments and more discussion before we move to a motion. Lauren, would you like to go? I know I've been going to you last, and I'll probably go to you last next time too, but, so if you, would you like to say anything first?
Sure. It's just, it's more of an overall comment. I think it's the fact of being a VHR owner is a particularly special event or responsibility. And I don't think we should be relying on other residents to have to be the enforcement arm for a particular VHR. It is the responsibility of the owner. And yes, renters are going to push the issues all the time. They're going to take advantage of whatever. They're going to bring more cars if they want to. And unfortunately, this is why this board is here, because we want the program to work. And the only way to make it work is to help the VHRs meld within communities so that residents don't even know that there's a VHR there. And so it is incumbent upon every VHR owner to be overly cautious and ensure that things are followed. And I understand the problem of trying to control people that you've never met before, who are coming from somewhere else, who are on vacation. And the other reason of the reduction of parking spaces is we have realized that the larger VHRs and the more cars they bring, the more disruption there is. So it was an error in our ways to have so many vehicles allowed, and it is bringing it back to something that is much more reasonable and more cohesive within a residential area. So it was just more a comment of owners need to be the enforcement arm, and we should not have to think it's okay that our neighbors have to call every single time there's an issue. Owners should take that responsibility. Thank you.
Mickey?
I just want to comment that, Mr. Shipman, your comments surprised me, because in what we've heard today, I was under the impression that this was just of once or twice or 3 times. And you're saying that every time you've come to Tahoe, which is only once a month or so, that you're running into issues like this.
We've been exceedingly patient. This has been going on for years. It's astonishing to hear my wife and I be denigrated for this one complaint, when the fact of the matter is, we should have been complaining 24 times over the last 2 years.
But,
we just deal with it.
Thank you. Let's bring it back to the board. Thank you. Let's bring it back to the board.
and I just wanted to say that I do think it's unfortunate that you didn't follow the process of calling into the code enforcement department, but I also know that sometimes people do what they think is most effective. So I do understand that part of it. Other than that, look, you know, my notes are all over the place. I am happy that it's 1 violation and not 2. And I am happy that you're doing the changes that you're making to your garage and closing it off, because I think that's necessary, and I think that shows that you have good intentions. But I still have a problem with violations not being upheld for the purpose of future, in the future. That's all.
Glenn?
I guess my comments are, most people seem to have more problems with street parking, off-property parking. I'm a little, that this has been such a big issue, and it's off-street parking. And I noticed that there was a time, I guess, when they permitted more cars. I'm not really sure, but in my mind, it appears that this wouldn't even be a violation if they were a tier 3. If they were tier 3, they probably still would have parking for 6 cars, and there wouldn't be any issues. So to me, the whole thing is kind of exaggerated, and
This call will be recorded.
anyway,
This call is no longer being recorded.
I think I understand when the permit says 4, they should limit it to 4. It's not always the owner's fault, but I think Ernie's correct that there is a violation of the permit as issued, although I'm not sure why it's not a tier 3, since it has 6 bedrooms and adequate off-street parking. That would seem to cure things for the future for the VHR permit holder, in my mind.
Thank you, Glenn. And just, Glenn, for historical, I believe this came to us as a tier 3, and we looked at the proximity to other neighbors. We looked at the street distance. We looked at a bunch of different things. That's why we determined it was not appropriate compared to the other tier 3s, which we did approve. I guess I'll wrap up my comments. Oh, sorry, Glenn. I thought you were done. That was too long a pause. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I just wondered how long ago that was that they were denied a tier 3 permit.
Ernie Strelo, for the record, is January 2022.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Glenn, I don't want to cut you off again. Do you have other comments?
No, except I wasn't there for that vote, and I probably would have approved it. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Glenn. They're overarching, the code starts off with that a house, the VHR, should blend with the neighborhood, first and foremost. And the reason I bring that up is that it can sound very trivial that there's 5 cars instead of 4. But that's 25% more comings and goings a day. I don't like, I mean, if we were to talk about what we would like, Glenn, I don't like tandem parking. Because tandem parking means someone has to get out, which means someone behind them has to pull out, make noise, where the other person pulls out, and they pull in, and so you get the car shuffle, which I believe tandem, you mentioned street parking. I don't know if any of the other things that Mr. Shipman mentioned were street parking as well. But, you know, tandem parking creates street parking. It just does. So I guess my first overarching thing is that while parking seems like a small thing if it's on private property, it also is about usage, congestion, the streets, comings and goings at night, different things. So I think that's the reason we have a parking number. We don't have to. We could just say there's an occupancy number, bring as many cars as you want to, create a parking lot. We determined that the number of cars was a quality of life issue in the neighborhood. I am very sympathetic to how do I control my renters, but I don't know what to do about it. Because the chance of us ever finding a renter is incredibly remote. If you try to call Douglas County Sheriff about parking, you will be after violent crimes, after other crimes, after street parking, after. And for them to go out and actually do this while someone is there is remote. We have based this whole process on, we're gonna have rules and we're gonna enforce them, and the owners are gonna be responsible for them. So, if we were to say we're gonna pull the owner's responsibility out, that leaves our entire code hanging and almost unenforceable. We could make owners not responsible for noise, which they probably have less input on, less screening ability than we do parking. So I can't go to the fact that we should have fined that we were only allowed to fine the renter. And I do understand it would have been nice to have a warning. I also understand that it's frustrating when a lot of these things don't get remedied, and people reach out. And just earning, for your benefit, there is a dangerous precedent starting to emerge that if you want action, you've got to go to the county commissioners. I remember one of the county commissioners talking about one of his neighbors had cancer, and she was being disturbed by a VHR, and all of a sudden that was the biggest VHR issue in the county, which was not fair to all the other residents of the county and was not fair to that VHR owner or those neighbors. But we are starting to get to, if you want enforcement, you've got to go to county commissioners, and I'll say that's just a dangerous precedent. So those are my two overarching things. While I would like for neighbors to complain directly to the owner or the manager and it be immediately resolved and never happen again and be reduced in number, it doesn't happen consistently. We have to hold owners accountable or the whole code becomes unenforceable, because now it's a speeding ticket where you have to be on site when the thing happens rather than knowing it happened. And so those are my two comments. Would someone care to make a motion?
Do I get a chance to rebut public comment on that?
Oh, sorry, yes, go ahead. I forgot that, go ahead. And you can rebut what we should have said too then.
Okay, thank you.
As an error of my ways.
No. So first, just to Commissioner Shipman's allegations, that's not part of the record that's here before you today. I think you're limited to the record, so those allegations about past numerous complaints shouldn't be considered in your decision. Secondly, if that was in fact where those complaints, why aren't the county involved in that early on? Instead, we have a blank record of no other violations against my clients. I agree with Member Romaine's comments that yes, it is incumbent on the owners to make sure, but I think from the testimony today, I think the owners here have done it more than they could possibly do to make sure that the renters are aware of their limited parking spaces. And I think you can go after the renters. Ask the owners who they were. Send them a notice of violation. I don't think it's not unreasonable. That provision in there allows that. Until that code changes, it allows you, or allows the enforcement and your authority to review that enforcement action to fine those renters and not fine the owners. And that's, I think in this case, there's a strong argument that in light of what they've done, in light of what they've tried to accomplish here, in light of what we have in the evidence, I think that they shouldn't have been fined in this case.
Thank you. Let me comment. While we might make more money fining renters, the purpose of fines is to limit bad behavior. And having a person pay a fine that they did in Tahoe may affect their future behavior, but it won't affect the future behavior of this residence unless they're a repeat renter. So while I would, if we were ever able to fine a renter, I would be glad to do that as a short-term basis. But I believe holding the property owner responsible encourages them to provide adequate procedures. And again, just their responsibility. Any more comments before we go to a motion?
May I make a comment?
Okay, yes.
We really put our heart and soul into making sure that this is well managed. The real issue here is that even though Mr. Shipman could have contacted us, he didn't. He chose not to. We didn't even hear about this until 44 days later when I got a call from Mr. Strelo. We were given no opportunity to make it right for Mr. Shipman. And yet, we're being penalized for that. It's the notice. There's a reason why the code says that they have to go through a procedure of complaining. They can contact our local person. 30 minutes we have in order to address that. And we would have taken care of that. None of us would have been here today. But we never got notice. You can't fix something you don't know is happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I?
No, we're gonna, if there is something new, but let's not rehash what is already on the record.
It's just addressing this,
Well-
but it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion?
I was just gonna say that, in response to all of this, what you said is absolutely right, Mr.
Campbell.
That what we're talking about today is strictly the 2 dates and the parking violations. Nothing else should be considered. And, that was a good reminder, I think.
Yep.
Thank you. A motion. See if Lauren or,
Lauren, or,
right,
I think it's gonna be up
I'm
to you.
sorry, I thought you were gonna make a motion.
Yeah, we're ready for a motion?
I make a motion, we hold, I don't have the paper for the proper wording.
affirm.
There is nothing to prevent me from making the motion. I move that we deny the appeal formed by Sweetland Revocable Trust, owner 996 Skyland Drive, Zephyr Cove, Nevada 89448, APN 1318-03-212-002, contesting the fine of $1,000 for parking violations.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Glenn? Glenn, are you still on?
I'm sorry, I'm a negative.
Okay, so 3-1. Thank you.
Can I ask that the record be clarified? You said parking violations, it's a singular, I just want to make that very.
Yes, correct. It is yes.
It was a single violation issued for 2
Yes.
He
instances.
said violations, sorry, just wanted, I don't want to.
Yes, thank you very much. That is a good correction. Yeah, contesting the fine of 1,000 for parking. Well, this says violations. The record is wrong here. It is violation. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 3. For possible discussion, for possible action, discussions on an appeal filed by Lance Evander, owner of 702 Bonnie Drive, State Line, Nevada, APN 1319-19-714-005, contesting the fine of $2,500 for operating a VHR without meeting fire and safety requirements and for submitting false information during the VHR permit process. VHR permit DSTR 0844P, code enforcement case 25-000059. Will follow the same structure as before. Mr. Strelo.
Ernie Strelo for the record. Thank you. First, before I start, I'd like to acknowledge, because this has to do with fire, our Assistant Chief Krantz.
Yes, sir.
Did I say that right?
Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal Tom.
Yeah, I can't remember your last name.
Michelle Turner.
Michelle. Michelle was the inspector, I believe, a couple times, and Assistant Chief Krantz, if I said that right. So if there's any questions related to the fire inspections, which there may be, they're here for that.
Well, there was emails going back and forth, I think,
Right.
from the, yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
I
you for
just
pointing that
wanted
out.
Okay, the property in question is a townhouse located at 702 Bonnie Drive within the Summit Village subdivision. In or around In or around November 2020, the property was purchased by Lance Evander. And in July of 2021, the owner was placed on a VHR permit waitlist. In April 2022, while still on the waitlist, the owner was notified by Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection District that a monitored fire alarm system would be required during the 2023 VHR inspection, I believe as all VHR applicants were during that time frame. In February 2023, the owner received a Tier 2 VHR permit for the residence, so it came off the wait list. The VHR was approved for 3 bedrooms, 4 parking spots, and a maximum overnight occupancy of 8. On or about February 1st, 2024, and this is referenced on page 138, Tahoe Douglas Fire conducted a fire and safety inspection on the property as part of the VHR permit renewal process. The property failed the inspection because it did not have a monitored smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. The owner was directed to schedule a reinspection for compliance. On or about February 6, 2024, and this is referenced on page 143 in the packet, Tahoe Douglas Fire conducted a reinspection of the property. This time the property passed the inspection. The owner provided the fire inspector with a signed contract showing that he was in the process of installing the required monitor detection systems. The past inspection allowed the owner to renew the property VHR permit. And then fast forward to this year, on February 19th, 2025, Tahoe Douglas Fire again conducted an inspection of the property as part of the VHR renewal process. Again, it was discovered the property did not have the monitored fire detection systems. On February 20th, 2025, Tahoe Douglas Fire began exchanging emails, and I believe these are referenced on page 148 and 172 in the packet, with Security Lock and Alarm, which had been contracted to install the fire monitoring systems the year prior. The emails are included in the packet and contain the following statements. And I put a note in here that, in my notes, that I'm gonna paraphrase. So if you want the actual text.
We've read
that's in
them.
there. Okay. So, so basically, SLA, which is Security Lock and Alarm, we just installed the fire system today. Tahoe Douglas Fire responded, can you please let us know if this address is had a proposal from you last year? Security Lock and Alarm said, yes, this address and this owner did have a contract with us last year, but he never returned our calls to schedule, so we canceled it without ever putting the fire system in. And then Tahoe Douglas said, so basically he lied and went a year without a monitored system when he was supposed to have one. He showed me a signed contract and I trusted him. Then he never returned the calls. Thank you for confirming. And they wanted to make sure that they had all the information correct. And then Security Lock and Alarm said, yes, that is correct. On February 27th of this year, Douglas County issued a notice of violation and assessment of civil penalty to the owner, and that's listed on page 152. The owner timely filed this appeal, contesting the imposition of a $2,500 fine on page 158. According to the owner, he didn't need the monitored system because he decided not to host VHRs last year. And because the system that Security Lock and Alarm was going to install was, quote, a downgrade from my current system, unquote. He later changed his mind and decided to host VHR guests, but he went with a different monitoring company called Becker Advanced Guard All-American. He then canceled that contract because of inadequacies, which led him back to SLA. The owner did not provide any documentation to support his claims, but instead invited the county and/or advisory board to, quote, verify all of this on your end through documents and phone records, unquote. In response to the owner's arguments, the county emphasizes that the owner has not provided any contracts, agreements, or other documents or evidence to verify his contract with Becker Advanced Guard All-American, or to confirm that such a contract would have satisfied the life and safety requirements that Tahoe Douglas Fire enforces. There is also no evidence or explanation for why the owner failed to correct the information he provided to Tahoe Douglas Fire. In contrast, there is ample evidence that the owner passed his fire inspection using inaccurate information about a contract with Lock and Alarm, Sierra Lock and Alarm, which allowed him to renew his permit without the requisite monitoring and detection services in place. So for these reasons, the county recommends that the appeal be denied. And then this is a secondary note, that there is no permit anymore, so that on February 28th, the permit expires. So about the same time this was going on, the permit expired anyways. No renewal application has been completed, so there's no permit to discuss in this particular case. Again, I remind the chair that we have the fire department here to answer any of those questions on the inspection.
Thank you. Would you like to make a statement, or should we go to the appellate's statement?
I think we're okay just going to the appellate
Okay,
statement.
thank you. Are you?
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind starting with your name and your relationship with the property, because we'll have to talk about standing in just a second.
Hi there. My name is Lance Evander. I own the property at 702 Bonnie Drive, near the Boulder Lift. I was fortunate enough to afford it after 10 years of renting in the area. Adamantly defend my actions and request a review, as I mentioned. In 2024, the introduction of this ordinance for a monitor system that is a downgrade from the current system for $1,500 to get this system installed. With outrageous monthly contracts and stuff like that, along with the $800 chimney sweeps that you need, and the $2,000 certificates you need, and the $400 fire inspections, and the 14%. It's ridiculous, but I signed the contract with a stated fire company, alarm company, and was having it installed. And I did receive the renewal. But at that time, it was taking a while for them to contact me or whatever. I didn't receive the calls, and I actually contacted them, told them to cancel it because I wasn't doing VHR anymore. I was just staying there myself, or having the ski people with me. The reason it installed it is not configurable. I couldn't get my own system integrated with it, my own controlling doors, controlling everything else. So I had time to figure things out. So at the end of the year, researched the VHR again, between the new system setup, and eventually went with the Becker Avant-Garde and All-American. Early in the year, I opted out of that, as that wasn't a great system, and what they sent was not great. February 13th, the fire alarm system was to be installed. The new, I contacted the Tahoe one that's recommended by the advisory board or whoever that says to use this one. I don't know who they are. February 17th, I called, confirmed the active system was in place and active. They confirmed with me that it was. On the 18th, the fire inspection came out, and obviously I wasn't there for this time period. And they said that it wasn't. Obviously it wasn't. 20th, I called the security alarm system again, and they were unable to do it because they had that snowstorm on that date. And then they came out, I guess the next week, and they finally installed it. As I mentioned, you can verify all that with the, I guess you talked to the fire alarm company and whatnot, and not the other one. And I withdrew my request for a VHR because the commission has made it nearly impossible for people to run them. They've got fines for stupid things like a car that is facing the wrong way, or whatever it may be, whatever they can think of. And it's gotten to be outrageous. And I'm just a guy trying to rent out his house in the summer when there's no skiing. Not rich like everybody else there, and it's gotten just out of hand with everything. Agreed that I was trying to find a better system, trying to geek out on it, and trying to get a better system in place. Right now I have both. I have that one and I have my system. You can have 2 fire alarm systems, just like they said. I've got too many fire extinguishers. I got too many smoke alarms probably. But it's fine, you can have 2. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Let's talk about standing. Can I have a motion regarding standing?
I will move that the appellant, Mr., I wrote your name down, Mr. Evander, has standing and is aggrieved by this $2,500 fine.
Can I get a second? I'll second.
Sorry, second.
Sorry, I beat you to it, Lauren.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, 4-0 on standing. Let's go to questions to Ernie, the fire department, or Mr. Evander. And Mr. Evander, whatever you feel more comfortable with, you can either stand or sit.
Can I?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Is this your primary residence that you rent, or you just kind of go back and forth? Okay. Okay. So you don't have a property manager, you just have a local contact for when you're not here? Okay. And you were renting your house during the time where there was the confusion or whatever over having this monitored system? You were renting?
I didn't, over the summer, there was rentals in the December, January or
Sorry, that was December 24?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And you commented that the monitoring system was required because of the new ordinance in '24, when in fact on this inspection it says it's required in '23, and I believe, and I could be wrong, so please correct me, but I think the decision to have monitored smoke alarms was something the fire department decided to put into their requirements. I don't know that it's in the VHR code requirements.
I can answer that.
Oh, thank you, Ernie.
Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Ernie Strela,
I'd
for
like
the
to
record,
be
I think, I don't think it's in the code, but I know that the fire inspections, because I saw it so many times on the bottom of the 2023 ones, I
Right.
think they said at the beginning, a certain date or a certain time, there was monitored fire alarms are required. I think it was like next permit or said
Yeah,
something like.
I believe it started in 2019 was when they started to roll it out, but then we gave about 2 years for people to come up to compliance, understanding that as we did the inspections that first year, that it was, we were giving people at least a year to then get it installed up to that point.
And I'm not suggesting that this isn't under our purview because of that, because they have to have a fire inspection that's passes to get a permit. I just kind of wanted to clear that up because I think for the record, it's important to know that this isn't something that just started in '24. Of course, as you've heard today, fire and safety is really important to us as a board, that guests that come to someone's house are going to be safe. And fire is top of mind for almost everyone in the basin these days, which makes it a very, it makes it very difficult to overlook something like this, understanding that there's a lot of dollars and cents involved too. But I think as far as questions, that is all I have.
Okay. Glenn, do you have any questions?
No, but I did miss the direct reply somehow that I guess was asked, was the house rented when there was not any monitored fire, system?
Well, that's a more complex question. You rented in December, around December 24. January, was there a monitored fire system at that
There
date?
was the Becker whatnot, and then my own monitor system, but whether it's, the question is whether it's compliant with the Nevada County fire regulations versus the state line fire commission regulations and stuff, and that's where there's some of that.
Okay. So it had a fire system, but perhaps it didn't meet the requirements of being monitored.
It had 2 systems.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I myself know, I think I was grateful for the notice because there was such a long wait list myself to get a monitored system. It took a long time for them to actually show up. I don't know if that is similar to what happened to this permit holder. But
Okay.
obviously, if he was given enough time, I mean, it was over 6 months or something, he should have had it monitored to pass his fire inspection.
Thank you, Glenn. Any other questions, comments?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Sorry. Okay, Lauren?
I have no questions at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Do we do public comment?
Yeah, I still got questions.
Oh, sorry.
We were going to do questions. Yeah, then we do public comment. So I miss, so at the date of your last fire inspection, because I thought you said you had a monitor system, but then at the date of your last fire inspection, did you have a monitored system that's compliant at the date of last?
With Nevada, yes. With Tahoe,
We'll ask about what the difference was.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with fire systems about what you're saying with the Nevada, and it sounds like there's some that
I was-
you believe are sufficient that they don't?
I believe was sufficient, when I talked to back and forth there, was when I found it wasn't sufficient, and then, after I was talking to Kieran, I found it was not sufficient.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Although mine was monitored, but.
Okay.
Not in accordance.
I guess I'd like to ask the fire department, so, he's mentioned Becker, different system
So-
monitored, is that defined, is there certain?
Yeah, so specifically for the monitored smoke, if you look at our website, on the prevention page, there's what is the requirements, sorry, Michelle Turner for the record. What is the requirements to monitor a fire alarm for VHR property? Monitoring is required for a VHR having any of these conditions: 3 levels, 10 or more occupants, attached dwelling units, structures, so condos, apartments, duplexes. VHRs are required to have a monitored fire alarm system registered with the Compliance Engine software program. The system must be installed and monitored by a third-party alarm company licensed in the state of Nevada by the Nevada State Fire Marshal. Licensed local vendors include, and then it lists a few of them, and says, please click the link below to verify a company is legitimate and qualified fire protection provider in the state of Nevada. So we list, we give you some examples, we list the thing that you can check there. The alarm system shall be registered with the Compliance Engine by the alarm company that provides the system. Many of the alarm systems are wireless and do not need to be hardwired. A cellular and radio signal monitoring is acceptable. Note, host compliance, which tracks VHR permits, is a different program from Compliance Engine, which tracks the alarm monitoring system. Web-based programs such as Nest or Simply Safe are not approved.
And he had Becker?
I don't know. It had 3 names.
Okay. But
I'm
his,
not familiar with that.
okay.
system. It could be listed on the Nevada, but he never gave us any information regarding Becker, so we were not aware
Okay.
if he had something else installed.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. There being no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion on standing.
Oh, thought we did.
Did we? No.
Yes.
There was,
Yeah.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh, never
I
mind.
think we got confused on who was making it, but yes,
Oh,
we had,
okay.
we passed standing.
Okay. Didn't pay attention, I guess. Discussion?
Glenn, anything you'd like to discuss before we go to a motion?
I would just like to maybe ask Ernie a question. If this permit is not going to be renewed again, is it possible that he could consider a slight reduction in the fine? Because you're not going to really have any reinforcement towards future behavior if he's not going to participate in the program. And I'm just being a little compassionate. Things are expensive, and it seems like he tried to comply, but maybe picked the wrong vendor. I don't know. I think I stand by the fire department's judgment as to what's adequate, but I would say $2,500 seems a little excessive for somebody that wasn't renting repeatedly with no fire system and just lying to the fire department.
Do you care to respond, or?
Ernie Strela for the record. He can, he's not applying for a renewal. He stated that on the record. He can come back at any time in the future and get on the wait list or apply for a permit, or as long as he follows the process that we just have been talking about. As far as the fine is concerned, the way we, the fire and safety is paramount in the basin, and so that was the reason for the fine. However, this body has can adjust it as they see fit, up or down, and so I'll leave it to you guys.
Thank you, Ernie.
You're welcome. Right.
Okay, I'll call for a motion.
Okay, I can make a motion. I was just gonna make a comment first.
Oh, come on, please, comments.
A VHR permit is a privilege, not a right, and we say this over and over again. And the important part about it is the permit holders must follow the rules and make it a safe environment for their guests. And if we can't ensure that, then we're not doing our jobs. With that said, I would be happy to make a motion.
Oh, well, let me, I cut off comment. Lauren, any comment before we go to a motion?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Mickey, you said you had a motion?
Yes. I move that we affirm the decision of the county upholding the violations and the fines for 702 Bonnie Drive, State Line, Nevada. Mr.
Lancy Vander.
Nancy Vander.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so 4-0. Thank you. The appeal is upheld. The appeal is rejected, the fine is upheld.
The appeal is denied and the county's decision is upheld.
Yes, thank you. Much better closing comment. We will now go to closing public comment. At this time, public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Vacation Home Rental VHR Advisory Board, or those agenda items where public comment has not already been taken. Seeing no public comment, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned.